All right, listeners, ready for another deep dive? You guys sent in some excerpts from The Valley of Fear by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Oh, now that's a classic.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a wild ride. Secret societies, a murder mystery, and a guy living a double life. We're really diving deep this time.
Yeah, and what I think is so cool about this story is that it's like Conan Doyle is mixing genres. You know, you have this traditional English murder mystery, but then you also have the roughness of the American frontier.
That's what I was thinking. It's like he took a classic country house mystery and just threw in a bunch of Wild West grit.
Exactly.
And of course, at the center of it all is John Douglas found dead in his study at Birlstone Manor House.
Right.
And we see it all through the eyes of our good old pal, Dr. Watson.
You know, and right from the beginning, Conan Doyle throws us a curveball. You have a cipher message, a missing dumbbell, and then a gunshot that just seems so out of place.
Wait, a missing dumbbell. Now, that's a detail you don't see every day.
Right.
And, oh, to top it all off, Douglas has ties to this shadowy organization in the U.S. called the Scowrers.
Oh, yeah, they're bad news.
So our mission, if we choose to accept it, is to untangle all these secrets and try to figure out why anyone would want to kill Douglas. And hey, maybe we can even solve the case along with Sherlock Holmes.
And I think it's important to remember that this isn't just a simple whodunit. It's deeper than that. Conan Doyle uses this mystery to really make us think about things like identity and revenge. And there's this underlying theme of good versus evil that runs through the entire story.
So let's paint a picture for our listeners. We're in the English countryside at Birlstone Manor House. Imagine this: an isolated manor house surrounded by a moat.
Oh, very spooky.
And get this, the drawbridge is raised every single night. It's the perfect setup for a locked room mystery.
Yeah, and that isolation isn't just there for atmosphere. It makes you really question how the crime even happened. Like, how did the killer get in or out without being seen?
It's like Conan Doyle is challenging us to put on our detective hats and think like Sherlock Holmes.
I think he totally is.
All right, so let's meet the characters in this little drama. We have John Douglas, the victim, who's described as a tough guy with a mysterious past in America. Then there's his wife, who seems a little distant, shall we say.
A little bit.
And we can't forget about Cecil Barker, a close friend of Douglas, who also has some connection to his American adventures.
Yeah, the relationships between these characters are so important. They're constantly shifting. You know, at one point they seem like suspects, then they're witnesses, and then maybe even accomplices. It keeps you guessing the whole time.
Oh, for sure. You're never quite sure who to trust. And then, bam, on this quiet night, a gunshot rings out in Birlstone. Douglas is found dead in his study shot with a sawed-off shotgun.
Oh, wow.
The window's open, suggesting the killer escaped across the moat. But hold on a second. There's a weird playing card with VV341 lying near the body. What does it all mean?
This is where you see Conan Doyle's brilliance for puzzles. Was this a random act, or was Douglas targeted? Was it personal or something more sinister? It's like he's daring the reader to solve the mystery.
Yeah, he really throws down the gauntlet. And just to make things even more complicated, the local police, Sergeant Wilson and Inspector McDonald, are totally lost.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it.
They can't find any footprints outside the window, and why use such a loud weapon? It doesn't add up.
Right.
So, of course, theories start flying around about a suicide or maybe even a link to Douglas's shady past in America.
You know, it's almost like the crime scene was staged. Like someone wanted to make the murder look like something. It wasn't just to throw everyone off.
Oh, that's a good point. A mystery within a mystery.
Exactly.
And just when the local police are about to give up, a telegram arrives. It's from Inspector McDonald, begging for the help of the one and only Sherlock Holmes. He even calls the case a snorter, which tells you how strange it is.
Yeah, that's not a word you hear every day.
As soon as Holmes arrives at Birlstone, you can just see his mind working. He notices things the police missed, connecting tiny details to get a clearer picture of what happened.
He's got that superpower, you know?
He really does. Like X-ray vision for clues. And right away, he makes these amazing deductions. First, he links the initials on the shotgun to a company in Pennsylvania, which suggests an American connection. Then there's that missing dumbbell from Douglas's study. Don't forget about that.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
And to top it all off, he spots a burn mark on Douglas's jaw, hinting at a past struggle.
It's amazing how he sees those tiny details that most people would just ignore. But for Holmes, they're like breadcrumbs leading him to the truth. He's not just looking at the crime. He's looking at Douglas's whole life, trying to understand who this guy really was.
Okay, so this is where things get juicy. Holmes starts interviewing the staff, hoping to uncover any hidden secrets. The butler Ames mentions a visitor who came to see Douglas earlier that day. And he says that Douglas seemed really restless.
Restless, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, and then the housekeeper, Mrs. Allen, chimes in saying she heard a door slam earlier that evening. But here's the kicker. Shortly after the murder, Mrs. Douglas and Cecil Barker are found laughing in the garden.
Oh, come on, who does that?
Right. Talk about suspicious behavior. Parker then goes on to talk about his long friendship with Douglas. They were mining partners in Bonito Canyon, California.
Oh, yeah.
And he mentions that Douglas was terrified of something called the Valley of Fear.
That phrase, the Valley of Fear, it pops up again and again throughout the story. It's not just a place, it's like a symbol of something terrible that happened to Douglas in the past. It's like a shadow that follows him everywhere.
And Mrs. Douglas adds to the mystery, revealing a name that Douglas said while he was delirious, Bodymaster McGinty. Who is this guy, and what does he have to do with Douglas's past?
Bodymaster, that sounds like a title from some secret organization.
Yeah.
And don't forget about those Scowrers. Could there be a connection there? It seems like Douglas's past is a lot more complicated than we thought.
Oh, it definitely is. And to add another layer, the investigation shifts to this mysterious visitor who showed up at a local inn the day before the murder.
Yeah.
The descriptions are vague, but people say he looked like Douglas Holmes, being the brilliant detective he is, decides to do his own digging, focusing on that missing dumbbell. It's like he's already got a theory forming in his mind.
That's what's so great about Holmes. He's not just reacting to clues. He's actively looking for them, testing out his ideas. And that dumbbell, I bet that's going to be a big deal later on.
Oh, I can't wait to see how it all fits together. And just when you think things couldn't get any crazier, we get a showdown at the manor house. Holmes tells the police to stake out the place at night, and they see a shadowy figure coming out of the moat grabbing something from the water.
Ooh, what is it?
But get this, it's John Douglas, alive and well.
No way.
Holmes reveals that he knew Douglas was alive the whole time and that the murder was all a big fake-out. Douglas comes out of hiding and explains that he staged his own death to escape his enemies. And in flash, he and his wife are whisked away on a train to safety.
So wait, let me get this straight. We've got a staged murder, a mysterious past, and a daring escape. But why go to all that trouble to fake your own death? There's got to be more to this story than meets the eye.
There definitely is. And that's where things take a turn for the unexpected. We're now going back in time, 20 years to the American frontier. We're headed to the Vermissa Valley, a rough-and-tumble coal mining region. It's about as far from Birlstone Manor as you can get.
This is where it gets really exciting. We're going to learn the truth about the Valley of Fear and finally meet this Bodymaster McGinty. We'll see what made John Douglas who he is and why he was so desperate to leave his past behind.
I'm already hooked. But don't worry, we'll get back to Baker Street eventually. The game, as they say, is afoot.
Indeed it is.
Okay, so we've gone from a fancy manor to coal mines and saloons. What's the deal with this Vermissa Valley? Sounds kind of rough.
Oh, it's a completely different world from Birlstone Manor. You know, Conan Doyle really wanted to show us the darker side of society, like what life was really like on the American frontier.
Yeah, it's like we've stepped into a whole new genre. It's not a whodunit anymore. It's like a Western now. And I'm getting this feeling that there's something more to this town than meets the eye.
You got that right.
So who do we meet first in this den of intrigue?
Well, there's this young Irishman named Jack McMurdo. He comes to Vermissa hoping to make his fortune. He's got charm, he's quick on his feet, and he's not afraid of a fight.
Sounds like a classic bad boy. But Vermissa doesn't exactly seem like the place to strike it rich. What kind of trouble is he getting into?
Let's just say Vermissa is not a place for the weak. It's a town ruled by fear. The coal mines are everywhere. There are these huge slag heaps, and everyone's always on edge.
Yikes. And then there's that secret society, the Scowrers.
Yeah.
From what I remember, they're pretty terrifying.
Oh, they're brutal. They call themselves the Eminent Order of Freemen, but they're basically thugs. They use violence and intimidation to silence anyone who opposes them.
So what's our charming Irishman doing with these guys? I doubt he's there for a tea party.
Well, McMurdo's ambitious. He wants to prove himself, and he's drawn to power, which makes him perfect for the Scowrers. They see his potential, and he rises through the ranks quickly.
I have a bad feeling about this. He's playing a dangerous game. And what about Bodymaster McGinty? Is he the top dog in this organization?
McGinty is as ruthless as they come. He's a powerful figure who controls everything in Vermissa. He's like a mob boss combined with a coal baron.
That's a scary thought. It sounds like he has the whole town under his thumb. But you know what they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. This can't last forever, can it?
The Scowrers control Vermissa through fear. They commit murders, beatings, and they intimidate everyone. The local newspaper, the Vermissa Herald, tries to expose them, but they face constant threats. It's like a losing battle.
It's like they've created their own twisted justice system where they make the rules and everyone else has to obey. But you mentioned a love story earlier. What's that all about? Even in this dark and dangerous town, there's still room for romance?
Even in a place like Vermissa, love finds a way. McMurdo falls for Eddie Shafter, the daughter of his boarding house keeper. But it's complicated. Eddie's torn between her feelings for McMurdo and the terrible things he does. Her father, of course, doesn't want them to see each other.
That's got to be tough. Falling in love with someone who's involved in all this violence.
Yeah.
And what about McMurdo? Does he really care for Eddie, or is she just a distraction from his messed up life?
That's the question, isn't it? Can he really love someone, or is he too far gone? It's this struggle that makes him such a fascinating character. He's caught between his loyalty to the Scowrers and his desire for something better.
So he's at a crossroads. But wait, there's another character coming into play, right? Someone who's not from this world of coal mines and secret societies.
That's right. We can't forget about Bertie Edwards. He's a Pinkerton detective sent undercover to infiltrate the Scowrers and bring them down.
A Pinkerton detective. Now things are getting interesting. It's like the good guy walking into the lion's den. How does McMurdo react to him? Does he suspect anything?
At first, McMurdo has no idea who Edwards really is. They even talk to each other without realizing what's going on. But the Scowrers are suspicious of Edwards, and they decide to get rid of him. It becomes a race against time as Edwards tries to gather evidence and stay one step ahead.
The stakes are high, and McMurdo's right in the middle of it all. This is where his loyalty is truly tested. So what happens next? I need to know.
This is where it gets really intense.
Yeah.
McMurdo is told to set a trap for Edwards, but as he's doing it, he starts to realize that Steve Wilson, the guy he's been talking to, is actually Bertie Edwards, the Pinkerton detective. He's faced with an impossible choice: stay loyal to the Scowrers who gave him power, or protect Edwards, who could expose the truth and maybe save Eddie and her father.
Wow, what a situation. Does he follow his heart or his ambition? What does he choose?
This is the moment where we see if McMurdo can redeem himself. And let me tell you, Conan Doyle doesn't disappoint. It all leads to a showdown at McMurdo's house with a twist that'll blow you away.
Okay, you can't just leave me hanging like that. Tell me everything. All right,
Yeah.
lay it on me. What happens at this showdown?
Okay, so imagine this. The Scowrers are all gathered at McMurdo's house. They're armed and ready to take down Bertie Edwards. They think they have the upper hand. But then McMurdo does something totally unexpected. He reveals that he is Bertie Edwards.
No way. He outsmarted them. That's incredible.
It's a total game changer. The hunters become the hunted. And just as the Scowrers realize what's going on, the police who were tipped off by Edwards surround the house. It's pure chaos. Arrests, accusations flying everywhere.
It sounds like something straight out of an action movie.
Yeah.
So the Scowrers' reign of terror is finally over.
It is. The Valley of Fear gets a break from the darkness that's been hanging over it. The people of Vermissa can finally feel safe knowing that the Scowrers are gone.
It's got to be a relief. But what about McMurdo and Eddie? Do they get a happy ending?
Well, McMurdo and Eddie escape from the Scowrers and head to Chicago to start a new life. They get married, hoping to leave the horrors of Vermissa Valley behind. But, you know, the past has a way of catching up to you.
Yeah, it's not easy to outrun your demons. It makes you wonder if they can ever truly forget what they've seen. But wait, we left Holmes and Watson back in England. What's happening with them while all this is going down in America?
Remember that whole story about the Scowrers? It turns out that account was sent to Holmes by someone who knew about Douglas's life as Jack McMurdo.
Oh, so they were trying to warn Holmes, like giving him a heads up that Douglas might still be in danger.
Exactly. But if Holmes already had this information, why even bother with the investigation at Birlstone? It seems like he knew what was going on the whole time. Holmes was playing a deeper game. He wasn't just trying to solve a murder, he was putting together a puzzle, and he needed all the pieces to see the big picture. Those little details he noticed at Birlstone, the missing dumbbell, the American shotgun, the burn mark on Douglas's jaw, they weren't just random observations, they were confirming what he already knew from the account.
Wow, he was steps ahead the whole time. That's incredible. But what about Douglas? Did he actually escape his enemies in the end?
Well, just when we think Douglas has finally outsmarted everyone, a telegram arrives with some bad news. John Douglas has been lost at sea, presumed dead.
Oh, no. So after all that, after faking his own death and starting a new life, he still ends up dead. That's so sad.
It seems that way. But remember, Douglas is a master of deception. Maybe this is just another one of his tricks. Holmes isn't convinced that Douglas is really gone. He thinks this might be another staged death, a way to disappear completely.
You know, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So I guess we're left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Did Douglas truly escape the Valley of Fear, or will the cycle of violence continue?
That's what makes Conan Doyle's writing so brilliant. He makes you think even after you've finished the story. We've been on quite a journey. A country house murder, a secret society, a daring escape, and a final confrontation that leaves us wondering if good really did triumph over evil.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure. We've uncovered secrets, witnessed acts of incredible bravery and horrifying violence, and explored the dark side of human nature. And in the end, we're left with more than just answers. We're left with a sense of wonder, a desire to learn more about the world that Conan Doyle created.
And that's the power of a good story. It stays with you. It makes you think about the themes, the characters, and the questions that don't have easy answers. In The Valley of Fear, Conan Doyle gives us a story that's both a thrilling mystery and a deep exploration of human nature. He makes us confront the darkness that exists in the world, but he also shows us that there's hope and the possibility of redemption.
This deep dive into the Valley of Fear has been amazing. It's made me appreciate Conan Doyle even more. He wasn't just a great mystery writer, he was a brilliant observer of human nature. And his stories are still relevant today because they deal with universal themes like fear, ambition, and the fight for justice. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of the Valley of Fear, I definitely recommend checking out more of Conan Doyle's work. Trust me, you won't regret it.
I agree. His stories are timeless. They combine suspense, intrigue, and insights into the human condition. And who knows, maybe you'll discover some secrets of your own along the way.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible adventure into the world of Sherlock Holmes and the mysteries of the Valley of Fear. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the game is always afoot.